cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States. And so the State Department and other agencies represented here, the Centers for Disease Control, HHS, others, are working very, very hard to contain this crisis to the countries where it's currently located, particularly the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we've surged assistance to make sure that is being contained there. And obviously, multiple agencies involved here are also very involved in tracking people just to make sure that nobody comes into this country.
With Marco Rubio announcing that for any cases of Ebola, I think it's only prudent that we look at this. Recently someone discovered that in the Congo area in Africa, where all this is supposed to be predicated, arsenic poisoning shares identical symptomology as Ebola. DR Congo primary industry of gold mining, especially arsenical, releases high levels of arsenic contaminating the local areas. And then you actually look at symptom comparison. You get fever, which is what they claim that Ebola is, but it's really arsenic poisoning. Vomiting matches. Diarrhea, abdominal pain, headache, fatigue, bleeding, hemorrhage, which is debatable, that one. Skin changes, rash or hyperpigmentation, neurological symptoms, respiratory issues. So as you can see, it matches arsenic poisoning. A very brave lady by the name of Massey, who was very busy over the time of COVID with many other freedom of information requests, and many other people around the world did so, showing that they didn't have any proof of COVID. A few years ago she did a request to the CDC for Ebola virus purification by any method. She sent that to the Freedom of Information Officer. This is a formal request for access to general records made under the Freedom of Information Act. Description of requested records. Please note, this request is very similar to another request that I submitted on March the 1st, 2021, the reference, where I had specified purification via maceration, filtration and use of an ultracentrifuge, and received no records response. The difference with this new request is that it does not specify maceration, filtration and use of an ultracentrifuge. It mentions filtration, ultracentrifugation and chromatology only by way of an example. All studies and reports in the possession, custody or control of the Centers for Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) and or the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry (ATSDR) describing the purification, i.e. via filtration, ultracentrifugation and chromatology, of any Ebola virus said to have caused disease in humans, i.e. the Ebola virus, Sudan virus, Thai forest virus, Bug-U virus, where the sample was not first combined with other source of genetic material, i.e. cell line, fetal, bovine serum. Please note that I am not requesting studies or reports where researchers failed to purify the suspected virus and they instead cultured something and or performed an amplification test, i.e. PCR, which is a fraud, fabricated a genome and or produced electron microscopy images of unpurified things. For further clarity, please note I am already aware that according to the virus theory, a virus requires host cells in order to replicate. I am not requesting records describing the replication of a virus without cell hosts, nor records that describe a suspected virus floating in a vacuum, or a strict fulfilment of Koch's postulates or private patient records I simply request the records that describe its purification, separation from everything else in the patient sample, as per standard laboratory practices for the purification of other very small things. Please note that my request includes any study report matching the above description authored by anyone, anywhere. If any records match the above description of requested records and are currently available to the public elsewhere, please provide enough information about each record so that I may identify and access each one with certainty, i.e. title, author's date, journal, where the public may access it. Please provide URLs where possible. PDF documents sent to me via email. I do not wish to have anything shipped to me. Request, the CDC request, the reply. This is regarding your Freedom of Information request of November 22, 2021 for request for all studies and or reports into the possession, custody or control of the CDC's and any other agencies for toxic substances and disease registry, describing the purification, either filtration, ultradiffusion and chromatology of any Ebola virus said to have caused disease in humans, i.e. the Ebola virus, Sudan, tall virus, but where the sample was not first combined with any other source material, i.e. the fetal bovine serum. Please note that I'm not requesting studies where researchers fail to purify the suspected virus and instead culture something and or performed an amplification test with PCR and or fabricated a genome and produced electron microscopy images under purified things. Please see the attached letter. The reply from the CDC. Dear Miss Massey, this letter is in response to your CDC Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry Freedom of Information request for November. Description of requested records. Please note that this request is very similar to another request that was I've already read that part. There's no response. The difference with this new request, it doesn't specify massacration. Blah, 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 blah. All studies. Yeah, so it's basically what we've just read there. For further clarity, so they've just reiterated what she basically said. And Mr. Anhudu, a search of our records failed to reveal any documents pertaining to your request, specifically the National Centre for Emerging Zoonotic Infectious Diseases states for the specified virus. The procedure asked about in this FOI request is not a methodology or procedure that the branch utilises or has ever implemented. We routinely, per protocol, we contact our public liaison for any assistance, blah, 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 blah. If you're not satisfied with this, and he signed it at the bottom. So in other words, what they really do with viruses is they put gunk in, animal parts, cow bits, other bits and bobs in it. It's just basically a gunk, and then they pull something out and basically say, well, there's your virus, and the establishment says, yeah, that's correct, get a vaccine created. The other version that they do is basically a computer program where there's no biological material introduced into that at all, so it's garbage. There was also a hantavirus, I think that one's been kicked into touch. Too many people exposed that, and there's a Freedom of Information request showing that they didn't have any proof. Just the same way with the Ebola, all the same set of questions, they don't have any proof.